Hello and welcome to GPVWC Supercup here at Interlagos, the second to final double round of the season. And this is going to be exciting. I think that we are going to see quite a lot of very tight racing, and qualifying is definitely signifying that exact matter of proceedings, as it were. And since at the moment our already crowned champion, basically, or actually not the crowned champion, I think he can come out the crowned champion out of this race, out of these two races. However, Alex Siebel is there with an absolutely humongous lead, maybe actually even a champion. Humongous lead. And it just looks like an incredible season, and at the moment he's just doing everything to crown it with a beautiful lap, seemingly at the moment faster than anybody could muster throughout the practice sessions. And of course, although Stefan Ruhl just did a 17,000th of a second slower lap, so it's not all over yet. However, we're going to get into a little bit more details of what he still can achieve and what we still can see out of this race later on. Of course, the championship may be decided, but there will be a lot of action, and we have seen Supercup provide some absolutely amazing racing over the last couple rounds, and I'm really eager to finally get back into this after I couldn't make it last week. Today on cameras we have Gerrit de Vries, which I am very thankful for, since without a cameraman it wouldn't be able to happen. And of course I'm Kacper taking you through this double round. So at the moment, Alex Siebel is leading qualifying session with about 4 minutes to go. Stefan Ruhl in second, third for Dina Paolini, fourth for Jeffrey Fournier, and fifth for Chris Shepard. All drivers doing extremely well, and Chris Shepard probably being one of the more surprising drivers to be this quick with Cosmo Racing, but still doing absolutely incredible job in practice and qualifying. And the differences are absolutely minuscule. The difference between the first and the fifth driver currently in qualifying is just 67 thousandths of a second. That is just basically one small mistake, one little wiggle, one tiny little mistake on when to apply the throttle or the brake. It is absolutely fantastic. We do have a couple penalties, which I will get into later. And of course, we also have the rule stating that the drivers have a bit of an option as to whether they're going to start on a hard or a soft compound of tire. And this is of course to do with qualifying. The fastest lap in qualifying and the compound that it is on, either be it hard or soft compound, is going to have to be used for the first stint in the race, which can be a significant factor. However, we have seen that only a couple drivers ever opted for that option of using a hard tire in qualifying due to how much slower it is. And actually one of those drivers at the moment is Mark Fuller, who I have a feeling like is not feeling the most confident in terms of his pace, and currently is in the final place of anyone who has downtime, since, to be honest, those tires just do not allow to go any quicker. A few drivers to, of course, pay attention to. We have seen them do quite well this season. Would be Kacper, Antonio Hreljanovic, Wopke Hoekstra, Borja Milan. Maciej Młynek could possibly show some signs of very fast driving he has earlier in the season. However, with a bit of a decline in the last few races, so he's only in 12th. Actually, we've just had an absolute stormer of a lap. I haven't even realized that must have happened just about a lap ago. An amazing lap from Jeffrey Fournier has put him into pole position at the moment, provisionally, by 2/10 of a second, by nearly 3/10 of a second, in fact, 274 thousandths over Alex Siebel. This is going to be a very tough challenge for anybody, including Alex Siebel, to get above, since his laps were very stable, but all around the 0.7 mark. So Alex Siebel has one shot. He is just about to start his lap. And other drivers to watch, of course, are Stefan Ruolt, Dino Paolini, and we're into the very latter parts of this qualifying session. And I think they still all can get a pole position, but it's all very tense and very, very close. All right, I think Jeffrey Fournier just got a bit... actually, he's only on an out lap as it looks, but he was held up a little bit by Chris Shepherd. And now Chris Shepherd and Jeffrey Fournier, I think, will be going in a tandem, hoping to do as good of a lap together. Possibly, actually, Chris Shepherd in fifth, quite far back, and actually used a bit of draft from Fournier to accelerate on the start-finish straight to get a little bit of a better start to his lap. That's a very interesting strategy. And of course, you will gain a little bit of time since the start-finish line is actually quite fairly far back at Interlagos here. So you can get a little bit of time. Of course, it's a bit more difficult to judge the brakes. I think there's actually a yellow flag out somewhere, which could mean that somebody is slow. Borja Milan, in fact, has just gone into pits. So Jeffrey Fournier is done. Alex Siebel is on his final stretch, very close to the finish. And he looks to have a fairly good lap, but cannot quite beat Jeffrey Fournier. What an amazing lap from Fournier. Just no one could touch him. At this point, the only driver who still has any chance of doing anything, and even then, I don't think his lap is fast enough, would be Chris Shepherd. And I think that is Jeffrey Fournier on our pole position for the second to last qualifying session of this season. All drivers are done with their qualifying, and at the moment, the standings, and I will have to go through the penalties to see exactly who is going to drop, are Jeffrey Fournier in pole position, Alex Siebel in second, third for Stefan Ruolt, fourth for Dino Paolini, fifth for Chris Shepherd, sixth for Borja Milan, seventh for Maciej Młynek, Wopke Hoekstra in eighth, ninth for Antonio Hryljanovic, and 10 for Tom van der Voort. Of course, this can shuffle around, and I just need to bring up the penalties, and let's compare. So, drivers that do have penalties. Polotczek is back to the grid, so he has not set a lap. Jordan, back to the grid, demotion. Again, hasn't set a lap. Eduard Batalla, he does not have a back of the grid penalty, but his brother Gerard does, who is not currently racing here. So that's an interesting... I'm not entirely sure why Eduard did not decide to do a lap, but that is his choice. Other than that, Michael Bernard in 16th place, it has a back of the grid demotion, so he will be starting at the back, not too much further than he already is. However, he has locked himself out in terms of the tire choice. Otherwise, it looks like we're pretty much done in terms of penalties that I can see that are applied to the current drivers. The only penalties are carried from earlier in the season and are on drivers who are not currently racing in the series. So, interesting ending to this qualifying, and we will very soon move on to the warm-up session. And at that point, we can really explain on the as per usual the format for this race. Since, of course, we have, this is a two-race weekend. First race, based on the starting grid is based on the qualifying grid. This is the longer of the two races, 41 laps in fact. It is a mandatory pit stop race, so this is something to keep in mind. And I will already go out on a limb and say that this is going to be a 2 pit stop race, as we have seen before. 1 pit stop around the middle of the race, going onto the soft tires, and the final lap pit stop from most drivers going onto the harder compound of tire, just on the basis of how much slower it is and how little pace you lose on the soft tire. So that is something to keep in mind, that these drivers will most likely do that strategy. Although we have seen drivers do the faster or do the slower, possibly, strategy and make it somewhat work. However, it usually does not end up working as well. We've also seen drivers go onto a hard tire for a lap in the middle of a stint. That used to be a Jeffrey Fournier strategy for a few races earlier on this season. And it's something to very much watch later on, as we will get into about halfway down the race. Second race, right after that, will be a reverse grid race, a 24-lap sprint race. The same amount of points are given away for either of the races. 15 places are scored, of course, as always here. And the reverse grid number is randomly selected between 6 and 10. So I think that's the basic rules, and of course we have a few more. Of course, cutting the track is against the rules, as always in qualifying, and that does not get away. So all the laps are hopefully clean, and hopefully no one is going to get a penalty soon, or not soon, but after for the next race. And yeah, it looks like it could be fascinating. Of course, we do have DRS and we do have a long straight, so I would actually say that we're going to have a very interesting dichotomy. If anybody can keep behind for the final section, I think there is a high possibility that drafting and DRS are going to play into their hands. And we could see a lot of moves into the Senna S's, which are, of course, the first corner here at Interlagos. So I'm hoping for a lot of action through the Senna S's. I'm hoping for a lot of action in general. Interlagos is a fantastic track for that, and there are a lot of very good places, a lot of undulations, generally direction changes, very, very tricky corners. It is a very classic circuit, and I think a lot of people absolutely love driving around here. I personally enjoy it a lot as well, so hopefully I'm going to enjoy, and you're going to enjoy watching it. Of course, we are in warm-up right now with about 2 minutes left. Drivers are doing their, more than likely, their race stint and race quick simulations and final preparations for that. So here's some interesting bits and pieces. Of course, I have mentioned this before, but I think it's a thing worth mentioning every time it comes up. Really, these cars have a very interesting DRS method. We all know of the drag reduction system from a series like F1, Super League, etc. Of course, that system is based on the top plate of the wing actually folding up, allowing the air to pass through, like as if that top wing essentially wasn't there. It lowers the drag as much as it can. What happens in these cars is a little bit different. The idea is to stall the wing in some way, and what you could do is completely block the airflow through the gap in between the wing and in the back of the car. If that air can't get through, the wing just can't generate as much downforce. That's why we see so many plates on wings in general, and why that increases the efficiency usually. So that is how these cars work. They actually close the wing rather than open it for DRS. So that's something, if somebody doesn't know, a piece of trivia for you. It's something that I probably talk way too much about, but it still is an absolutely fascinating fact for me, and hopefully for yourselves. In terms of racing, I think, yes. Okay, so it's 111 points with only 100 points on the table. Yes, Alex Siebel is actually the champion. I needed to confirm that for myself. Dino Paolini is not technically confirmed second place. So technically, although not very likely, we are going to see a battle for a second place in the championship. I don't think it's going to happen. However, what we can see and what we will definitely see is a battle for third place. At the moment, Dennis Jordan is in third, currently 2 points in front of Jeffrey Fournier. Jeffrey Fournier, of course, starting from pole position, and Dennis Jordan having a very difficult time starting from the very back of the grid. Actually, from 18th, to be perfectly precise. However, it looks like possibly if Dennis Jordan could do well in the second race, and especially if he can make a few places up in the first race, I think there's a battle is still on, and especially it can still go on all the way on to Abu Dhabi, where, of course, that could culminate another few battles for certain places. We still have a massive battle for 5th place as well. Wopke Hoekstra, Borja Milan, Stefan Ruold, and Jason Muscat are all technically down, are very close to each other technically, and are still able for that 5th place in the final standings. There's only 14 points in between the 4 drivers. With 4 races to go, that's very much a gap that can change around, and we can see some shifting around of the drivers. Last bit of another couple bits of trivia. If we see Alex Siebel win 2 races here, which at the moment looks like it's not going to be an easy job for himself, we're going to see the first time he's going to beat his own record. In fact, which he set in Austin, well, before Austin, in Japan, basically, and Austin, to be fair, where he has won 5 races in a row and won 2 complete rounds in a row. Of course, that has to happen if you're going 5 races. And at the moment, if he wins every single remaining race, which is quite a bit of an ask, both races here and both races in Abu Dhabi, he will have 6 races in a row with another record of 3 complete rounds being won by a single driver in a row. Absolutely incredible dominance this season, and I think he needs to let somebody else start winning, because this is just not fair, really. However, we are just about to start our formation lap, and this could be fascinating. So, from pole position, Jeffrey Fournier, absolutely a magnificent lap. With some bad luck earlier this season, I think he deserves this, and absolutely is going to do everything in his power to win this race. Alex Siebel, second. Our champion this season, already cannot be touched. 3rd place, Stefan Ruold. 4th for Dino Paolini. 5th for Chris Shepard. Very good performance. Borja Milan, 6th. Around the same place he has been for the entire season. Good stuff. 7th place for Maciej Młynek. Must have moved up a couple places. Wopke Hoekstra in 8th. 9th for Antonio Hrdjanovic. 10th for Tom van der Voort. 11th for Douwe Tapper. 12th for Rob Mason. 13th for Jason Muscat. 14th for Bastian Peisler. 15th for Mark Fuller. 16th for Edward Batalla. 17th for Michael Bernard. 18th for Dennis Jordan. 19th for Johan Lindberg. And finally, Tobias Polocek, starting from the last place. Also, sorry, I completely mispronounced Bastian Peisler. Sorry, that was a complete... that was just a slip of a tongue. So, yes, this could be fascinating. A lot of fast drivers in the back. Dennis Jordan, Tobias Polocek, very, very fast drivers. Jason Muscat also showing up a lot this season. Douwe Tapper, also another driver, of course, Jason Muscat's teammate, who can do some amazing stuff. And he has won a race this season, so he is definitely not powerless, and he still can do very well. Of course, I would say that for a race win, if Jeffrey Fournier keeps this, as boring of a choice as that may be, I think Jeffrey has a shot at finally winning a race. He has not won a race since Monaco, where he has completely dominated. However, he has had a consecutive run of second places for the last 3 races. So I think he'll be very much hungry for that win. As we finally set up on the grid, as Jeffrey Fournier goes off from the pole position, and hopefully we're going to see as clean of a start as it is possible, as we have the red lights, and 4, 5, and here we go. Great start from Fournier. However, Siebel, even better. Siebel is already on the inside, already even. I think Siebel is going to have it. Not. He may just, but there's a bit of contact between Fournier and Siebel. Siebel has it. Siebel actually overtook Fournier. Now Ruel trying to squeeze in. However, Ruel not quite able to do it as Fournier closes the door. Still, Siebel, Fournier still side by side, trying some moves. Fournier is not giving up. This is absolutely going to be amazing. I haven't had a second to look back whether there was any incidents in the back, but we seem to have gone through okay. No one has really fallen back. Jeffrey Fournier just absolutely sitting on the very back end of Siebel. And that was an incredible start from our for our already crowned champion this season. And this is going to be tough for him to get away if this pace was anything to go by. As we have a bit of movement in behind, Antonio Hreljanovic in 11th place, currently with Rob Mason, just going side by side, keeping it safe. As Muscat right behind is also trying a move on Rob Mason. Absolutely tough corners to do it side by side, and I think there will be even a little bit more movement right there. However, yes, Muscat goes side by side as we have a first of the pitters. Actually, 2 cars in the pits. However, Muscat goes through on Mason without even DRS. Mason does a switchback completely out of nowhere, trying to outbrake Muscat on the inside. Absolutely fantastic stuff, but can't do it. Muscat is through, and there's a lot of drafting going on. And something that's also very interesting is up in the front, Alex Siebel is under immense pressure from Fournier. It's last time on the last split, it was only 0.177 of a second. This is going to be a battle of the ages. This could be one of the most ridiculous battles if this is going to keep up. Something akin of what we've seen in Japan earlier on this season. I've just spotted another move as Kacper in 8th place currently overtook Martin Winnick into one of the corners, which I never expected anyone to really overtake into, right after the double right-hander up the hill. And luckily, I cannot remember the names of the corners, which I probably should have prepared earlier. Couple drivers still look very close together, bunched up for 11th place. However, I think right in front of them is where the action is going to happen. Tom van der Voort seems to be ready to attack Martin Winnick for 9th place. 9th place is up for grabs right now, with Tom van der Voort going to the inside, doing a very similar move to Kacper. I don't think he can make it. He doesn't brake late enough, and Martin Winnick closes the door perfectly. Absolutely great stuff, and I am afraid that the DRS is going to skew this entire racing. However, Tom van der Voort doing another attack, going on the inside into the fourth corner, I think, and cannot quite do it. It seems like Tom van der Voort is a little bit weak on the brakes compared to Martin Winnick, who is absolutely on it. However, he doesn't seem to have quite the pace in a straight line, nor in the corners to really get away, nor to overtake for himself. However, the top three drivers have actually really closed down on each other, all of them within 1 second. This is going to be very interesting. DRS is going to be enabled after they cross the finish line right now. So this will be an interesting train. If Jeffrey cannot close back down to Alex, this could end up with Stefan being the only one with DRS, and at that point, Jeffrey, our pole sitter, could end up in a massive bit of trouble. As I spotted another battle, sorry for jumping around, but for 12th place, Rob Mason and Jason Muscat going side by side from the Senna S's. There's a contact. Muscat is half spun. Jordan had nowhere to go, nearly crashing to the back of Muscat. This is scary stuff, but thankfully nothing happened. However, Jordan going for a move on the inside of Muscat. Did Muscat overshoot? No, he hasn't, but he's wiggling. Jordan, for 12th place, he's going to possibly attempt a move on the outside into a corner, which I don't think is going to work. No, he can't quite make it. However, his lines are going to be much better onto the heavy braking zone, but he cannot utilize that to his advantage. And Rob Mason, by the skin of his teeth, is still in 12, or sorry, Jason Muscat is still in 13th place by the skin of his teeth. So that was very close, and it all began with a contact with Rob Mason and Jason Muscat. Scary, scary stuff. Hopefully we won't see too many contacts, but unluckily there's some grim inevitability to that exact moment when you go side by side through the Senna S's. However, so from what I'm seeing right now, we're getting quite a few little trains going on. One major train is, of course, for the lead. Jeffrey Fournier is keeping the gap of about 0.6 of a second currently behind Alex Siebel. And Stefan Rold is just about keeping within a second. I think they're starting to use the DRS to their advantage. The next little train is kind of a little bit more spread apart. And between 4th and 7th place between Chris Shepard, Dina Paolini, Wopke Hoekstra, and Borja Milan. Douwe Kacper is the leader of the next train. This one is very close and very, very tense, and we have seen some battles here already. Douwe Kacper, Maciej Młynek, Tom van der Voort, Antonio Herljanovic, all of them within just 1 second. This is ridiculously close, and I think we're going to see quite a bit of moves in the DRS zone coming up right here on the straight as they come up to the start-finish straight. If it all, unluckily, what also happens when you have DRS is, if you have two drivers with DRS, it's a bit more difficult for you to overtake, especially if you do a mistake on the DRS. However, I'm seeing a move on Maciej Młynek by Tom van der Voort. They're going to do it just into the Senna S's, just about side by side. Can Maciej Młynek do the same thing he has done before, just outbrake his opponents? Yes, he can. There's contact, and van der Voort right into the wall after he has touched the rear end of Maciej Młynek, who has lost a bit of control. Hopefully, van der Voort is not suffering from too much of a disadvantage now with any kind of damage to suspension. I need to check that right now. He does have a little bit of damage to his suspension. Yes, just a tiny bit. Thankfully, it's not as bad as we have seen earlier on the season in some other cars. However, it is noticeable, and there is a little bit of a skew. So hopefully, van der Voort is not going to be suffering in his pace too much. Alex Siebel is now only 0.4 of a second in front of Jeffrey Fournier. And they're just in the DRS zone. I think we're going to have an attack for the lead. Jeffrey Fournier, just 0.4 of a second and closing in. This looks like a possible move. It will be a late dive. It will be a late move, but it could be a retake. No, he cannot quite make it. However, he is setting himself up for the next lap, or possibly even the next DRS zone, which starts right on the straight, and it could end up in a position change for the lead. Alex Siebel to the inside, defensive. Jeffrey Fournier is going to have to make that outside work. However, Alex Siebel, absolutely amazing how fast he is. He must have set that car up for a straight. He knows how important it is in these cars to make sure that the straights are decent. Alex Siebel goes extremely defensive. Jeffrey Fournier does not know where to go. It nearly looked like Alex Siebel was changing his line a couple times. However, it looked good to me. He has only just come back to his racing line and hasn't actually blocked Jeffrey. So to me, it looks clean. However, Jeffrey Fournier on putting Alex under heavy pressure. However, Jeffrey having a bit of traction issues coming out. And I think this could end up in him. He did lose 0.3 of a second over that little burnout. However, it's still only 0.4 of a second. It's still the same move. It's still the same possible aggressive move. However, I think he's not going to be able to make it this lap just due to that one small mistake. However, I think he's going to attempt another move into the next set of corners. And again, after the next DRS zone, can he do it? Can he close down to Alex Siebel enough to overtake him on the shorter of the two DRS straights? It looks like he's not going to make it. However, he is very close. Can he just keep this close for a lap? But then not if you keep on making mistakes, Jeffrey, not that way. Some amazing stuff. However, we have some teammates battling now for 5th place technically. Wopke Hoekstra thinking better of it with just barely backing out of a situation where they could have both lost quite a bit of time to Chris Shepard, who's now catching up to Stefan Ruold, and this whole battle for the win is actually expanding, I feel, because Stefan Ruold is only 1.5 seconds behind Jeffrey Fournier. So this is something that could end up absolutely being a battle of the ages, as Geoffrey Fournier comes out of the final corner in an absolutely perfect way and is putting Alex under as heavy of attention as he could. And I think Geoffrey could make a move on the outside into the ZS's as Alex goes defensive. Alex goes very wide, trying to make his car as well as he can. However, Alex, I don't think cannot defend this. He's literally about half a meter behind Alex in Geoffrey, that is. And Geoffrey already in the front before the braking zone. Alex could not do a thing, and Geoffrey Fournier is back into the lead. That is absolutely something fantastic, and I have not seen this kind of a battle for the lead this early in the race for a very long time. What a fantastic bit of racing, and absolutely a fantastic move from Geoffrey Fournier. And now, this is going to be a question whether we're going to see an attack back from Alex Thibault onto Geoffrey Fournier. And while it may not be a battle for the championship, I think that this is something well worth watching anyway. This is an absolutely incredible battle, and it's absolutely on the top level of performance. Great stuff. And now, I think that actually with the way that these drivers are battling, what's going to play the biggest role here is how they're going to decide their strategy. Remember, this race is the longer of the two. This is the one where the tire wear counts probably the most, and where you have to go pit in at least once to change for the slower tire, but usually it means 2 pit stops since the tire is just so much slower. Seems like the gap has slightly stabilized, and Alex does not seem to be able to catch up to Geoffrey nearly as much as Geoffrey was keeping on the back of Alex, so this could be a one to watch. However, for now, I think it is absolutely settled. However, just one mistake for that lead, and there could be a change. So we still have a couple trains going, of course. We have the 2 drivers battling for the win still, technically. Well, not technically, we do actually have battle for the lead. However, the next closest thing is the battle for 3rd place. Currently, Chris Shepherd is only half a second behind Stefan Ruold. He's been absolutely on it. Absolutely fantastic performance from Chris Shepherd. And I think that he could be here and be fighting for a podium in this race absolutely outright. Great stuff from Chris Shepherd, and that Cosmo team must be very, very happy with his performance, as Chris Shepherd actually does go fairly aggressive and nearly contact between himself and Stefan Ruold. However, Chris just not having quite a good enough exit out of the Senna S's to have a hope of catching up on the 2nd DRS straight. Whew, I'm going to lose my voice by the end of these 2 races. However, I think it's going to be well worth it. As we have a bit of a battle between Maciej Winnick and Dawid Kacper. Maciej Winnick going to the outside of the 2nd of the DRS zones, and he actually makes it work. There's a bit of contact between Kacper and Winnick. Kacper having the inside line after the contact, and I think he's going to have it. It's all going to depend on the braking point, and Winnick cuts the track to just barely avoid Kacper. And just Kacper on the outside makes it work. Beautiful defense from Kacper. A bit too bad about the contact earlier, but great stuff. And Kacper maintains the 8th place, with Maciej Winnick having Antonio Hrdljanovic breathing down his neck, and then having a bit of a gap behind him. That's the train currently for 8th place. The 11th place, actually the 11th place is also under contention from 2 drivers. However, the gaps are a little bit bigger. Tom van der Voort and Jason Muscat having also Dennis Jordan join behind them, with a massive gap in behind them. And 2 drivers fighting for the final places for the points. Rob Mason and Michael Bernard in the final 2 places. I need to see if I have any information on pit stop. Don't think I do, unluckily. We have seen a couple drivers, and I presume that's all of the hard tire drivers going to pits early on in the race. So that's something to keep in mind, that some drivers will not already need to go onto the softer compound. And the only driver currently on a harder compound of tires that's still on the track is Mark Fuller, I think. I need to confirm that. Yes, it is the only driver on the harder compound of tires currently in the second to last 19th place. And I have to say, I am very, very happy with the current retirement rate of 0%. Everybody is still running as they and if they started a race, and it's absolutely glorious to see. That's exactly what you want to see in a race of this level. No race-ending crashes, no retirements, as we have a battle still raging for 8th place. Maciej Winnick scaring Dowie Tapper, and now I think this is going to be a move. Maciej Winnick for 8th place on the DRS zone again, something akin of what Fournier did, very similar. Is he going to go to the outside? Just waits to the last second. Dowie Tapper just cannot defend, but can he keep it on the inside? Maciej Winnick having to go to the outside, and Tapper utilizing his slow exit due to the AstroTurf, and we're going to see 3 wide. No, thankfully, Kraljianovic thinks it's better of it, because 3 wide, holy, that is an incredible move from Tapper as Winnick spins, and wow, Tapper going sideways. I didn't think that is possible for an overtake. That was on the outside of a really fast double right-hander, or a really just basically a very long right-hand corner that's very, very difficult on tires. Just going completely sideways. I don't know how you do that, and overtake on the outside going faster than on the inside line. That is something for the books, and I think that could be one of the best overtakes because that basically is what it was of this season. Absolutely something amazing. As we have Stefan Rold actually making a mistake, I need to quickly see, but now Dino Paolini is in front. Stefan Rold and Chris Shepard have had a bit of altercation, as did Dino Paolini. Stefan Rold just getting closed down by Shepard, sorry, as Dino Paolini is in behind him. Dino just completely innocent party in all of that. Stefan Rold just wiggling into Chris Shepard, who unluckily gets taken out and is our first retirement of the race. This is absolutely sad to see, considering Chris has been doing a fantastic job and he has done nothing to deserve what has just happened there. It was purely unlucky fault. It wasn't, I'd say it was a racing incident by Stefan Rold. Of course, it is not for me to judge, and I would presume that is going to one for the disciplinary committee over the next couple of weeks, as Stefan Rold is now going to have to fend off Borja Milan right behind him, who's already on the DRS, and Dino Paolini right in front of him. And unluckily, that has influenced this race a little bit. That means that Edward Patala does advance to 15th place, and now we have the first of the pitters, and it's not because he wanted to. Dowie Tapper into the pits with damage. Front wing is missing, and he has been going around without a front wing for a little while. In fact, over about half a lap. Unluckily, spinning all on his own after a great start to the race, really. It was very good running in the middle to latter stages of the top 10. Dowie Tapper makes a very big mistake, loses the front wing, and loses his chances for a good race. He will now have to do some incredible work, try and get back to the top 10, if that's even possible, which I unluckily think it is not. He has also opted for the... he has unluckily opted for the softer tire, so he will also have to go into the pits. I think he feels like it is not possible to really reap the benefits of the harder tire. Or honestly, I think it's just too slow for to be used at this point of the race. As Chris Shepard is quite disappointed, and I can definitely feel your pain, Chris. Unluckily, that is what happens in racing. As Dowie Tapper, I'm just observing him a little bit on his outlap, and he is pushing way too much. He is making mistakes left and right. He is looking like he's going to be very is going to be a very difficult job for him to finish that race safe. As I've seen just with the corner of my eye, there's a battle between Tom van der Voort and Jason Muscat for 9th place. Tom van der Voort just about overtaking Jason Muscat in some crazy maneuvers. However, I think something I've seen that may have played into the part of Douwe Kacper spinning out was how aggressive he was. We have seen that overtake. That was absolutely insane. On the outside, barely keeping any traction in those tires, and I think that's exactly what happened. He's just killed his tires unluckily, and possibly just didn't expect the grip to be this low. Looking back, we have Jason Muscat and Tom van der Voort again. Muscat doing an incredible move on the outside onto the DRS, and it's absolutely done and dusted before they even get to the breaking point as Tom van der Voort touches the back of Muscat. Dennis Jordan has to cut the corner to barely avoid Tom van der Voort spinning right in the middle of the Senna's. That is the most scary place to be sideways on to traffic. Thankfully, no one else got hurt. However, Tom van der Voort is a victim of his own making by just braking too late, just not quite feeling it, hitting Jason Muscat a little bit. Jason just getting a tiny bit of wiggle, and Jason gaining a position in a very in a good way. However, Tom just making a mistake on his own, and now pushing quite hard to try and get back, and it could end up being very detrimental to his tire wear. Of course, I don't think that would be the nicest car to drive now after you had to lock up, and Tom van der Voort is sliding all over the place. So now, battles. Borja Milan for from 5th place on Stefan Ruold. Some very aggressive moves to just show himself to Stefan Ruold on the start-finish straight, and I think we're going to see quite a bit of movement here now. I think we're going to see quite a bit of attacks, and I think this is the one to follow. The 4th place battle between Stefan Ruold and Borja Milan is going to be a big one. Stefan seems to be a little bit faster. However, Borja now seems to have the pace, which, let's see, compare the lap times. Stefan's last lap was actually fairly slow, quite a bit slower than his fastest laps, so it could just be that it was a bit of a mistake last lap that got the opportunity for Borja to even attempt a move. As we have Rob Mason into the pits. It looks like a scheduled pit stop. 41% of the race down. It appears that he is going for the strategy that I mentioned at the beginning, coming into the pits for a set of soft tires and doing one single lap on the hard compound later on at the very end of the race. So there's a little bit of a battle for the lead, but I don't think we're going to see a overtake from Siebel. No, Siebel is trying to keep close, but I have a feeling like Fournier actually is set up for the straights a little bit more than Siebel now that I see the comparison of them fighting. And what is happening is an absolutely insane battle. However, Siebel just not quite able to close down on Fournier, who's doing an incredible job to stay out in front. But these two drivers will not let go. A single mistake could end up getting Siebel back into the lead. And of course, there's still very likely 2 pit stops to come from these two drivers. And they can decide it all. A single 10th of a second loss on braking late could be a braking early or too late into the pit lane is going to cost either of these drivers. This is going to be a tense battle all the way throughout this race, and I think this is going to be one of the closest finishes we will have this season. And there is some explanation from Chris Shepard on what he feels that it was like. However, Alex Siebel going for a move into the Senna S's. He's actually already alongside. Is he going to make this move stick into the Senna S's? He actually is. This is something that I did not expect to happen. Jeffrey Fournier down into 2nd place. However, he keeps on the very back end. And now, Jeffrey, with the DRS, is going to attempt a move like he has done earlier. A massive shuffle for the lead again as Siebel breaks later. However, Siebel now is going to have a bit of an overshoot. However, it seems like his tires may be a little bit better, considering Siebel was able to keep it together. And Fournier is going to go for a late dive. He's not quite. The battle for the lead is on again. Alex Siebel, the current champion, not already having the points lead for this championship, is showing some incredible stuff this race, and he is definitely out there to win, and win he can. This is looking like Alex is at the moment. It looks like Alex actually lost a little bit of Jeffrey a little bit, but it could also be that Jeffrey is having his tires a little bit overheated. No, Jeffrey is coming into the pits. Jeffrey, the first one to call it, with half the race down, or just about down, he decides to pit in. He's going to go for an earlier undercut and trying to make the new tires possibly do a little bit faster sector times and hopefully overtake Alex Siebel. That will be his hopes. Wopke Hoekstra, Antonio Hreljanovic, also two drivers into the pits on this lap. I think this is also a good call from these drivers. These drivers will not lose out too much. They will still have to do half race on this stint. Basically, they're turning around the amount of laps they're going to do on either of the stints. And these drivers will just have to do one lap more on this stint before they have to go on the harder tire. So it's more of a choice between this lap and the next lap. And of course, if you pit in on this lap, you gain the advantage over all of the other drivers that that you don't have to deal with the absolute mess of the pit. And Tom van der Voort was also in the pit. And now Alex Siebel, this is the moment of truth. Is he going to come in? I do not possess the information if he is, and he is going to come into the pits. It looks like not quiet. He is going for another lap. This is, I think, a mistake from Alex. Alex is going late. I think unless he's going for a single stop, this could backfire on Alex. However, this could also be a track where he has shown before that he can be one of the drivers who can go a single stint when other drivers can only do doubles. That is exactly what happened back in Silverstone, if I recall correctly. The first race I actually commentated on in this series, I think, this season. I seem to very much recall Alex doing something very similar. However, Eduard Batalla into the pits. And next up, let's see. There's a bit of a battle for 10th place between Antonio Hreljanovic and Tobias Polocek. Let's see where Jeffrey actually is currently. He's behind Maciej Młynek, about 3 seconds behind, doing what kind of a sectors? Let's see. I just need to quickly check. We're talking about 19s. So nothing. Well, actually, his middle sectors are quite amazing, and his final sector last lap was pretty okay. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. His middle sector is absolutely on fire right now. His first sector was pretty good, and less than a tenth slower than his fastest time, and his second sector is absolutely on it. His final sector, however, is it going to be enough? Is it going to be enough to be faster than Alex on this last lap? So Antonio Hreljanovic has actually DNF'd. What happened to Alex? What happened to Antonio? Just a straight disconnect. Oh no, that is an absolute bummer. Antonio Hreljanovic out. Tobias Polocek was in pits. Muscat was in pits. Alex Siebel must have pit and is less than a second in front of Jeffrey Fournier. So these two drivers, Fournier seems to have not gained anything. In fact, he has lost time to Siebel by pitting in early. So it looks like Siebel is a lot better on tires, or he kept the tires until the end, so he could just put that little bit more pressure on Fournier and attempt for that win. Dino Paolini into the pits, our current leader, with Stefan Ruhl taking the lead currently. He's probably going to be coming into the pits soon enough, unless he is going for the one-stop strategy. And yes, we have confirmation that Antonio Hreljanovic unluckily has had a connection drop, which puts him in a very unfavorable position for the next race, as well as he has unluckily lost his chance for a very good race this time around. So we can only feel a little bit sorry for Hryljanovic. You're not the first one to have this bad luck in here. Something that I have spotted right now, though, is Dennis George just got overtaken by Wopke Hoekstra for 6th place, by the looks of it. And Wopke Hoekstra, yes, up into 8th place. So good stuff from Wopke. Haven't started in 6th place. Hasn't started in the greatest of ways. However, now is up into 6th, and it is already after pit stop, so he's doing really well. Johan Lindberg is in pits meanwhile. So Stefan Rold into the pits for his first of the 2 stops, very likely, unless he does go for the harder compound tires. Alex Siebel is going to lead this race with Jeffrey Fournier nearly 2 seconds behind. Alex has put down the pain. He has definitely decided that it's hammer time, and Alex is absolutely out in full force. This is absolutely what we have seen all season long. Especially in the second part of the season, second half of the season. Alex, once he can, and once he does, absolutely no one can catch Alex, and no one can take care of their tires to the same level that he can. Something that just, it boggles my mind, put it that way, as to how a driver can manage this kind of a feat. So now, drivers in proximity. So Dennis Jordan still keeping close to Wopke Hoekstra, so that's still not over technically. However, Wopke seems to be a little bit quicker and seems to be a little bit more of a driver up for that 6th place. Generally, we have a closer counter for 16th. However, that is not exactly a big encouragement, since of course only 15 places are actually awarded points at the end of the day. Now, looking down, it seems like Alex is putting some incredible lap times. 1:15.493. That is a 0.6 of a second quicker than Jeffrey Fournier. That looks to me like Alex Siebel has everything under control, and Alex is going for another win. This is incredible what this man has done over the course of this season, and in terms of how incredible domination he has shown. It is akin, if not even more, than what we have seen last season with Lars Brugman. Lars was, we have always known, was on another level. Alex, this season, has shown that he is absolutely in the same vein, and he has shown that he can be very fast in other steers as well. So this is not just purely on the based on the car. So absolutely. So unless Alex makes a mistake, I think we know who the winner may be. Outside of that, we're starting to run dry on any kind of battles. Drivers seem to be separating a little bit. All of those moments in the race where unluckily, like the pit stops have increased the gaps. I think the closest that we have at the moment, and that's not even very close, is the 6th place, and that's 2 seconds. The 4th place, and that's nearly 2 seconds. And we also have an 11th place battle for, but that's again 2 seconds. So fascinating, these cars. Absolutely fantastic in terms of, I think, getting people to really push themselves. And it seems like the tires are quite forgiving. However, they something that we have found is that the brakes aren't. We have seen some brake failures this season, and hopefully we're not going to see too many of them here. However, this is the race that this would happen. And of course, it just takes a lot of care if you do have that problem. This is not exactly a track that would be signifying brake issues, considering there's a lot of straights between the braking zones. However, there are a lot of very heavy braking zones, so that's also something to take into account. And by the way, there's a comment from Ryan Nash. Yes, it is Zebo winning again, no surprise. But to be honest, it's a little bit of a surprise. He wasn't starting from pole position, and he wasn't leading for most of the race, at least thus far. He is doing a good job now, but he was, for a very long time, second behind Jeffrey Fournier. Stefan Rawls, let's see his lap times, because at the moment I'm seeing something that's very interesting. He's doing lap times very similar to Alex Siebel, 1/10 of a difference between the two. And Jeffrey Fournier is doing very similar laps again. He's just Jeffrey has had a very slow lap last round, a second slower than Alex. This is not good. However, that means that Dino is possibly going to have a possibility of an attack soon enough, considering they're closing down. The difference is only 1.3 seconds right now. So, to me, this looks like Dino Paolini could be absolutely charging for the second place in this race. I think it'll all come down. Again, at this point, unluckily, it looks like the finish for the win is not going to be coming down to who's going to be pitting in better. However, that's exactly what can happen for second place. Dino Paolini absolutely on it, and I think don't take me wrong, all of these drivers deserve a podium. I think Borja Milan is also doing a fantastic job, and I wouldn't mind seeing himself coming up again and getting a podium. But something that I have to commend as well is Borja Milan up into 4th place, starting a little bit further back today, and I think it's 6th place to be precise. And Borja doing great job, keeping very close to the podium. He's had his ups and downs this season, but this is definitely one of the ups. With me having to take a little bit of a sip of a drink, my throat is absolutely starting to kill me. And there's still a race to go. That's what happens when you have an exciting race. So, Jeffrey Fournier and Dino Paolini, they're second apart, and we're going to see, I think, a battle going between the two. This could end up being a battle again, something I kind of would have seen earlier on between Sibo and Fournier. If that was anything to go by, oh dearie me, we're up for a fight if I ever seen one. So Interlagos, great track. However, I'm seeing a very dangerous precedent here, and something very similar to what happened in Mexico. I have a feeling like, although to be honest, here it's not as bad. The DRS is thankfully not as prominent. However, there are some circuits where it is, and it is a little bit too powerful. Here, I think it's still a little powerful, but it is a tool available to both drivers, so I guess that is also something to take into account. A tool, of course, available to both drivers if they want to overtake, that is. Jeffrey Fournier now just 0.6 of a second in front of Dino Paolini. This is something that feels so inevitable at this point. With Dino doing some great laps still. Very consistent laps that are not as fast as Alex. Actually, sorry, I take that back. They're actually pretty much identical to Alex lap times right now. So, with absolutely no chance of really catching Alex if this is how they're going to end up, the second place battle is still a good one. And remember that Alex still could make a mistake. We have seen him make mistakes earlier on this season. This is rare, and he's doing very well for himself, but we have seen him make mistakes. Not quite close enough yet. Dino Paolini just closing down a little bit using the DRS. Seems like the gap. Seems like it may be a little tough for Dino to overtake. Fournier seems to know exactly what he needs to do to keep his place. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jeffrey keeping that second place. However, we still have a good bit of the race to go. It's still 10 laps, so it's still quite a large portion of the race to go. So, of the drivers that started back at the back of the grid, Dennis Jordan is a shout out. Dennis Jordan all the way up in 7th place, I think is the top of the back of the grid demotion runners. Tobias Polacek not having as great of a race. It is his teammate. However, Tobias is only in 12th place, and that's extremely disappointing considering Polacek has had a great start to the season. Or great part of the first half of the season, and then unluckily kind of fizzled out. It's an unlucky state of affairs. Michael Bernard also with a... Speaking of Dennis Jordan, he's actually into the pits, sorry. Michael Bernard also had a back of the grid demotion, and now he is currently in 15th place. So also in points, however, not doing so great for himself. However, Dennis Jordan in pits, and what is it going to be? Hard compound of tires. He's going early. He's going to do quite a few laps on that hard compound. He has, I think, not pitted thus far, so that's actually one of the reasons why he was so far up. He has been driving on the single compound of tires, on the single set of tires from the start of the race, and that's actually something that is an impressive feat if I've ever seen one. And now he's battling with Edward Batalla for 10th place, for 9th place, sorry, and there's contact already. Batalla gets spun by Jordan and spun back, and there's even more contact. They both spin, and this is not what Jordan wanted to do. And he gets back onto the racing surface, losing places for Polacek, Edward Batalla, and Tom van der Voort. These two will be very confused and happy at the same time about gaining places. However, this was ridiculous, if I may say so myself. Both drivers losing a lot, and I think this is going to be definitely one for the disciplinary committee to resolve. So Tobias Polacek now, suddenly, as I was saying that Tobias not having as good of a race as Dennis, Polacek, who has already been in pit and is on the harder compound of tires, that's still not right. No, is on the softer compound of tires and still needing to pit in. Is now battling with Tom van der Voort for 9th place. So that's some consolation for Dennis Jordan, that the drivers in front of him still have to pit in. However, he has lost so much time that I have a feeling like he has wasted some kind of great opportunity. And I have a feeling that was completely of his own volition. But that is, of course, not for me to judge. And yes, Roy Schroten, that has actually just basically align with my views on the situation. Dennis slightly at fault in that, in any case, however you slice it. Something that's even more incredible now is that Dino Paolini is in front of Jeffrey Fournier, and that's been happening for the last lap. However, Fournier is not giving up, so there's still a battle for 2nd place. And they're both 6 seconds behind Alex Stiebel. So sorry that I missed that, but that was a little bit there was a little bit of shuffling here and there, and I have not. And it's a little bit difficult to pay attention to a battle that's going on for ages. Jeffrey Fournier on the back end, trying to make his tires last as well, and trying to make sure that he has the tires to attack Paolini, as Paolini goes full pelt and trying to push the car all the way that he can. And I think if Fournier could just come out of final corner a bit better than Paolini, can he actually make it work? I don't think he can. I think it's a little bit too far for Fournier to overtake Paolini at this point, as we have Michael Bernard in pit lane. I think he's going to be coming in with for a set of hard tires. As he pits in and goes on to, sorry, a set of hard competitive tires. Jeff Fournier still in third place as I expected. Going to go for a move, but not quite close enough. So it seems like my prediction on Jeffrey actually winning this race, or at least that's what I was thinking. Is unluckily not going as planned. It looks like Dino, even Dino is winning in with him on merit. So that is just a little bit unlucky. Eduard Batalla is right now at the back of the train for 9th place. Tobias Polotek, Tom van der Voort, and himself. This could end up being a battle for 9th place. However, it's gonna be a bit difficult. Eduard has shown some battling earlier this season. However, it wasn't always of the highest quality. However, something that's, let's see the tire compounds of everyone. I think they're all on the starter compound of tires, and they are, yes. So Eduard, when was he in pits? He was in pits not that long ago, I think, actually. Unless that was a spin, which it very likely was. However, Eduard Batalla going on Tom van der Voort. Van der Voort not having the DRS, not being close enough, and Batalla now on the move for a start-finish straight. The DRS is closed, well, open, and he's gonna do it on the outside before the corner even, before the braking point even starts. And Eduard Batalla is through. Tom van der Voort drops down into 11th place, and Batalla up into the top 10. Borja Milan sliding about a little bit. He's now in a race of his own. Seemingly not quite able to catch up to Fournier, although Fournier is now not able to keep up with Paolini. They're about a second apart at this point. Actually, over a second apart. So Batalla back behind van der Voort. So van der Voort actually did overtake Batalla back, and it seems like he did that after the Senna S's. So good job from Tom, and great overtaking to manage after the Senna S's. So at this point, all of the work that was done is now undone, and Eduard has to do the exact same move again if he wants to get into 10th place, and this time not allow Tom through. And he does go for an inside run. However, it looks to me like he is not quite capable. And Tom van der Voort makes a mistake. He returns to the track in a very unsafe manner in my eyes, and now nearly contact with Batalla that could have ended quite badly. Batalla now in front. However, this was all Tom van der Voort's fault, and I think that was actually quite a dangerous situation to be involved in. As we are closing down on the end of the race, Alex Siebel with only 3 laps to go. David Kacper was in pits for coming in for the final set of the hard tires this time around. Looking like a very disappointing race, possibly finishing in around 14th place. Very unlucky, as we have seen David Kacper making a mistake on his own early on in this race after running quite well. So Dowie not going to take this weekend as one of his favorites. Jeffrey now dropping back from Dino Paolini again, and looks like that battle is all set. Borja Milan still keeping about a second and a half behind Jeffrey, with Stefan Ruhl 2 seconds back from Borja. Wopke Hoekstra in 18 seconds behind in 6th place. Being in 18th place wouldn't be very good for him now. But Martin Winnick all the way back 9 seconds behind Wopke Hoekstra, so that's very far back now. Jason Muscat is even further. at a further 11 seconds, 38 seconds behind Alex Sieb. Tobias Bolotnik in 9th place and 10th for Eduardo Battalla as Dino Paolini comes into the pits for his final stop as Chris Shepherd does rejoin the race. I think he is in just purely to prepare for the next race, considering he has ended his race with a damage. As we have Wopke Hoekstra and Dino Paolini in pits. Looks like these two managed to time this perfectly. You know, they're in the same team. They didn't have to double stack, and now Wopke Hoekstra is getting serviced himself. And Wopke is out on the road again as Bastian Paisler is now into the pits. Of course, the series is a little bit odd for anybody watching. A lot of the drivers do decide do a final lap pit stop just purely to get a set of hard tires onto the car. Stom van der Voort goes into pits for the set of hard tires to satisfy the regulation, with 2 laps to go. Now, Alex Siebel into the pits, final lap. Jeffrey Fournier into the pits, final lap. Bora Milan follows suit. Stefan Rold, exactly the same. Rob Mason has pitted in a lap beforehand, but he is currently in pits, so he could also be there to mess everything up a little bit. So these 4 drivers, it's going to be interesting to look at Fournier and Rold, really. And Paolini as well. Martin Winnick into the pits. Paolini comes out safely. Alex Siebel comes out safely in front of him. So it looks to me like we have Borja Milan in 3rd place. Borja Milan has jumped both Jeffrey Fournier and Stefan Roald. How in the world did this happen? How can you jump 2 drivers of this caliber in a single pit stop? This is something that I've not seen in Supercup throughout the season at all. That's not what is happened. This must have been some kind of mistake, or somebody has pushed really hard. I'm going to have to rewatch that replay soon enough. However, Alex Siebel is about to cross the final finish, start-finish line, or finish line in this case, with another win, 3rd in a row, going on for still able to get a record of 6 wins in a row. Alex Siebel wins the first feature race here at Interlagos. Dino Paolini coming in 2nd. Bora Milan in 3rd place. Jeffrey Fournier in 4th place. 5th for Stefan Roald. 6th is for Wopke Hoekstra. 7th for Maciej Winnick. 8th for Tobias Bolotnik. Looks like it's going to be 9th for Eduardo Battalla, with 10th for Dennis Jordan, who is under heavy pressure by Jason Muscat, but I don't think he's going to quite able to make it on the outside. This is going to be close. This is going to be very close. Actually, Jason Muscat, by the skin of his teeth, actually gets the 10th place over Dennis Jordan. Wow, that was a close finish. Tom van der Voort in 12th. 13th for Rob Mason, 14th for Douwe Tapper, and 15th for Michael Bernard. Of the non-point scorers, we have Bastian Paisler in 16th, 17th for Johan Lindberg, 18th for Mark Fuller, and then we have 2 retirements, Anton Hreljanovic and Chris Shepherd. What a race. I hope everybody was enjoying that, because I was, and this is great. So, if our cameraman wants to jump in and say a couple words, I welcome him as well to do so. Yeah, what a fantastic event, and absolutely congratulations to Alex Siebel for the win. Great stuff. Borja Milan, fantastic podium. So, if Gerrit wants to say something or not, please let me know. And then, oh, lovely! He's just eating a cookie. Well, as always, just in the interim, I'd always love to thank the cameraman. Without you, this wouldn't be happening, of course. So always a big thank you to all the cameramen throughout the season. And fantastic stuff. Apparently, Jeffrey Fournier's pit crew was a little bit intoxicated after a party with Rob. So, of course, Rob Mason being his teammate. So that's his excuse for losing that spot to Borja Milan. So if anybody has any comments, please let me know in the YouTube section. Right now would be the perfect time. We have a couple minutes to kill. I need to absolutely drink something because my throat is getting hoarse, and we still have a race on our hands that's going to probably last about 40 minutes. So, or actually about 30 minutes. So hopefully this is going to be as exciting. However, right now, this could be fascinating. So Alex just doing what he does. The top two drivers are the current two drivers in the standings in the championship. Jeffrey Fournier doing fantastic job to, I think he is definitely taking the third place still. Too bad he did lose places in the end. But he is taking the third place in the standings currently. If his, considering out of his last 5 races he has done here in the Supercup, he has been in second place in 4 of them, and in 4th place once, and now he can add another 4th place to that. So in the last in the last 6 races, he has done it twice. I think we can expect having another 2nd place on our hands. So let's see how that happens, but it definitely puts him at an advantage, and he will definitely have a reverse grid. So as I'll quickly take a drink, and I'll let you know what is going to happen. So from here, we have, of course, a reverse grid for the top 6 to 10 drivers. This is going to be a lottery that we do every race or every weekend. We will be a number will be announced later on in once we are in the warm-up session, and then we'll know who is starting from the pole position. So it could be any number of drivers. Alex Siebel will be starting from 6th or 10th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th place. Of course, it all depends on who draws the lucky number. And I'm seeing some very funny comments from Antonio Hreljanovich. Of course, having a bit of a unlucky, unlucky disconnection with his internet by his internet from the last race. Apparently, he would rather race and battle Pastor Maldonado than battle his connection. So that is a bit of a funny comment that I think was worth sharing with all of you. And yes, that I'd say that a lot of people feel that way, even though they probably end up in the same situation anyway, retiring from the race. So the reverse grid, of course, is a little bit tough. Usually we see that drivers that are fastest, that is Alex Siebel in this case, tend to struggle when you have about 10 driver, 8 to 10 places to make up. Which usually, well, 7 to 8 and 9 places, 8 or 9, 8 to 10 starting place. But what that usually means is these drivers are a little bit. It's a little bit tough to overtake sometimes, and that's when they usually struggle. And usually that's exactly when we see that breaking. So, and when it's usually 6, we have seen Alex Siebel win the races, usually, if it's just 6 drivers he had to overtake. And usually he's leading by like lap 1. That's something that you may come may see this race as well if something goes wrong. Hopefully not. However, that has happened earlier this season. So, second race. The format is a little bit simpler, something that most of us will be familiar with. A simple, no-stop race, 24 laps, so it is longer than a lot of the drivers did their stints. So that's something to keep in mind. The tires will need quite a bit of management. However, it is a non-stop race, usually driven on soft tires, and the drivers tend to be fairly aggressive, considering they have nothing to lose. They don't have a second race to prepare for. So we have the reverse grid number as well, but I'll come to that in a second. And it tends to be that the sprint race is quite a bit hectic. However, I'm just looking at some messages here. Apparently we're missing something. Or maybe not necessarily me, but our cameraman apparently missed something, and I'm not entirely sure what he has. I'm sorry? Oh, apparently we have missed some kind of a flying German, so something happened there. So I always thought that it's the flying Finns, not the flying Germans, but I'll take flying Germans for now. So, however, yes, so the sprint race, pretty simple. Reverse grid is always in effect, so that's something that makes up for the action in the sprint race. Not necessarily, one has pit stops, one has a reverse grid. And reverse grid number is 6, the lowest possible. Wopke Hoekstra is going to be taking the pole in this race. And this is good news for Alex Siebel if he wants to keep that record going. So I'm still thinking he will do that. Apparently, basically, Jeffrey got jumped by Borja because Rob Mason was spitting it. So actually, that Rob Mason thing I mentioned, yes, they couldn't double stack, of course. So that's exactly how Jeffrey lost his place. So too bad, Jeffrey. Good effort though, and I have to say that move on Alex Siebel early race was absolutely fantastic. Some good battling there. Just too bad your pace just dropped off a little bit. But good job. Still better than you having issues earlier on this season with disconnections. Apparently, the softs last very long for certain drivers. Bastian Pacer being one saying it at the very least. I guess it depends on how much you push. So, Wopke Hoekstra saying that being asked why it wasn't 5 places because he usually misses out on just barely misses out on getting the pole position, or not pole, the reverse grid pole position. But this time he couldn't because literally being 6 is the lowest that you can. So a bit of banter going on as per usual, and I think we're getting ready for the second of the 2 races. My voice seems to be recovering, so thankfully I may be able to shout for another 20 or 30 minutes. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. Hopefully so I'd say this is going to be fascinating. And I think that we're actually going to be looking at possibly Alex Siebel not winning this at this rate. Just thinking, we're going to have to look at it exactly once we grid up. However, I have a feeling like this time around, Alex Siebel will have a very tough time overtaking certain drivers because they seem to be about the same pace. And they're in front of him right now. So, apparently the wear on tires was quite heavy. They apparently usually change out at around 30 26% of the tires. So something interesting, a lot of the tires in a lot of other cars actually give up a lot of traction at around 50%. So interesting to see that the tires actually do keep going all the way until about 25, 26% and still give enough traction to go quickly. So that's something very interesting, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the drivers manage. We have our final messages from our race director, Chris, and he, of course, is the man who this is possible, who makes this possible. Of course, as always, our race director is the man, is somebody who has to be here, who does his job every time, and without him, we wouldn't have what we have right now, and we can only be very glad to have Chris Williamson here with us, as always. Apparently, Jeffrey is now saying as well, just a quick chat, that apparently he was really pushing it on the first stint to wear the tires down to just show Alex who's the boss. And then he showed, and then he apparently showed Jeffrey that it was actually him. It was actually Alex. So, of course, the banter going between the drivers, and it's good to see that there's always a good bit of positivity going across the drivers, and I like to see that. I like seeing friendly banter between drivers, as long as it doesn't become toxic. It's absolutely fantastic, and I think we're all here to have fun, and I think we're all here to enjoy ourselves. So as we grid up and as we get going, Wopke Hoekstra is going to take us from pole position. Good stuff, and Wopke is going to be hoping for a win this season. Can he do it? I don't know, but he will definitely try. Stefan Ruold in second place. Definitely going to be a challenging driver, and definitely going to be challenging for the win here. Jeffrey Fournier, another driver who has shown incredible pace in qualifying, a little bit slower in race pace compared to Siebel. However, can he maybe manage and muster up and win this race? This is entirely possible. Borja Milan in fourth place. Great race. Final podium. He has been struggling some races this season, but Borja, great stuff. Third place last race, fourth place here, or starting from fourth place here. Dina Paolini in fifth place. And then Alex Siebel in sixth. Both drivers very fast. Both drivers, I think, are going to be challenging and will be attempting to make their ways up onto that top spot. Maciej Młynek, the first of the non-reverse drivers. Great race last time around, and I think he's going to be doing a good job again, and he'll be hoping to go as high up again. Tomas Polotic 8th, with 9th for Eduard Batalla. 10th for Jason Muscat, with 11th for Dennis Jordan. 12th for Tom van der Voort, and 13th for Rob Mason. Douwe Tapper, disappointingly, 14th, but we all know he has unluckily made a mistake earlier in the first race. Michael Bernard in 15th, with Bastian Peisler in 16th. Johan Lindberg in 17th, 18th for Mark Fuller, 19th for Antonio Hruljanovic, and Chris Shepard, with the very unlucky for the last two retirements. And we will get going in just a second. So what I'm expecting is, to be honest, I'm going to bet that Stefan Ruold is going to take this one. I have a feeling like he is fast enough. Either him or Dina Paolini. But here we go. And as all the lights up, and we go green. And I can see a 3 wide right behind the top two. There's contact between Fournier, Ruold, and Milan. Thankfully, they're still on track. However, Fournier did drive into the back of Ruold, and this could be looked at by the disciplinary committee later. But that was scary stuff. Siebel already in front of Paolini and attacking for Milan. Already attacking for fourth place as Młynek and Batalla. Spin out, contact between the two, and unluckily both are already back down, and after a good race from both of them first time round, they're already unluckily having a bad start to this race. So a lot of stuff happening. As I said, it'll get a little bit more hectic in the second race when you know that you don't have that much to lose and you have a lot to gain. The little train is happening between Rob Mason, Jason Muscat, and Dowie Kacper. Rob Mason having an amazing start, rocketing up all the way up to 8th place, and now is under heavy attacks from Jason Muscat, and who is being followed by his teammate, Dowie Kacper. So this is going to be a massive move. Muscat already on the inside, touch, contact, Muscat, end. Rob Mason crash. Mason without a rear wing. That's the end of the race for Mason. He has to make an entire lap without a rear wing. This is the end for any hopes of competitiveness as he tries to make his way without a rear wing, and he spins, and I think he now realizes it is the absolute end. This is very unlucky, and Mason has retired from the race. So this is unluckily a little bit less clean, and now there is a battle between Shepard and Michael Bernard for 13th place. A bit of contact again, Shepard touching back at Bernard. This is quite scary, and I see that there's a lot of contact. Not something I like to see personally. I really like clean battling. I don't like contact, so that's not getting a thumbs up from me. But then again, it was just a tiny little bit of a touch. Just a little bit of misjudgment, and it's very easy to do, so I can give that one up anyway. Wopke Hoekstra all the way to 1.3 seconds in front of Jeffrey Fournier, who's currently in second. Great stuff. Stefan Rult, however, I think is going to be attempting a move on Jeffrey as soon as we get the DRS. And Delta Racing Team is saying go, Stefan, and you are definitely, you have the right to definitely cheer him on. He's doing very well for himself, as he is definitely trailing behind Jeffrey like a shadow, and this could end up being a massive battle. But now he has to watch out for Borja Milan, who's also doing a fantastic job, and Borja just on the very back end, so he has to watch out to not make any mistakes. Sorry, there was a bit of a hiccup. I'm terribly sorry. As we have Alex Siebel also on the back of this tiny little train. As I'm looking slightly behind, Chris Shepard is in a bit of a battle between himself and Mark Fuller as well. This looks like it could be culminating in an overtake very soon. So Chris Shepard going on to Mark Fuller now. Mark Fuller, of course, not being the most talented of the Supercup drivers, but he has been here for a long time, and he is definitely not. He is not a total pushover, but he definitely isn't. But I don't think he is quite up to the task of defending from Chris Shepard. Shepard on the outside, attempting a move, braking late, doing great stuff. There's a contact and nearly spins, but then bounces back off. We didn't see that happening. Winnick gets pushed onto the grass by Shepard. Shepard being a little bit argy-bargy there, and now Polotzik touches Winnick. Winnick just gets absolutely bullied out of the way. This is some incredible stuff. 3 wide, coming in, Winnick, and Shepard, completely closed. Oh, Shepard gets closed in. Polotzik, the innocent party and all of that. What has happened? This was, well, Shepard did initiate the move. He was absolutely sandwiched and could have done absolutely nothing to prevent that contact. That was absolutely crazy. And here's hoping that he is not here with damage. So matching Winnick and one more driver. It could have been Polotzik actually. At this point I actually have no idea. This was absolutely something crazy, and thankfully Shepard is still on driving, but he has lost a lot of time. DRS is now available to all drivers who are within a second of the car they are following, which means that now is when we're going to see possible moves from, I feel, Stefan Rule. Also, Antonio Ferlianovic without the front wing is now into the pits. So I'd say something interesting is Jeffrey Fournier is closing down on Wopke Hoekstra. It is only 1.1 second now, and at the same time, Ruold is closing down on Fournier. So Fournier now in a kind of a bit of a pickle. He's definitely wanting to try to get back to, on Hoekstra so that he can activate DRS, and he will be able to activate the DRS. Looks like he's within a second. So it looks like he just saved himself by the skin of his teeth. However, what it looks like now is we're going to have a battle for the lead. In fact, the top 5 drivers, that includes Alex Siebel, within 2.6 seconds of each other. This is all very tense and very close. This is going to be very, very close unless something changes. And we have seen that all drivers were very close all the way until the pit stops last time around. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something quite scarily amazing until the end of the race. So far we have 2 retirements, of course, Rob Mason and Tobias Polotic, both of them crashing out. Jeffrey Fournier. So now we have 0.7 of a second between himself and Wopke Hoekstra. We've seen in the race 1 that he can overtake the likes of even Alex Siebel. So this will be very, very interesting. It's only 0.6 and it's closing down rapidly at this point. It looks like he's very much closing down. It is now 0.5 of a second and even closer after this braking zone. It looks like Jeffrey is going to try a move. It looks like he's going to close down. If not now, it's going to be the next DRS straight. If not then, the next lap. He is not letting Wopke go. Wopke, under immense pressure at this point, is he going to go for a move? No, he can't. He's a little bit too far back. However, now he has to go through these corners perfectly. Fournier does a little bit of a slide. However, Wopke goes wide before the DRS even happens. Jeffrey already has it side by side, and Jeffrey goes into the lead, goes to the inside, and is already in front. By the end of the straight, Wopke not quite able to deal with the pressure, not quite able to deal with charging Jeffrey Fournier. Now he has to deal with either trying to overtake back on Jeffrey, which is going to be a very big ask, or we're going to have to see Stefan Ruold try and overtake on Wopke Hoekstra. This is great stuff. And if you just have a look at the top 5 drivers, there are nose to tail. You can't sandwich a paper. I don't think you can sandwich a piece of paper between them two, really, at this point. They're just so nose to tail entirely. Just, this is incredible in single seaters to be able to be this close. And Jeffrey Fournier now is running a little bit away. However, this is not going to be helped by Wopke Hoekstra now having DRS. However, it looks like he can't quite utilize on it. So Jeffrey Fournier now starting his little run, 0.4 of a second between the two after the first DRS zone. I think we're gonna see Jeffrey trying to make the lead as big as possible, which he's gonna have to do in the twisties. And at that point, Stefan Ruold is going to have to attempt a move if they can. Of course, disengage from DRS from Jeffrey Fournier. And who said that single-seaters aren't exciting? Or rather, who said that more powerful single-seaters aren't exciting? I think anybody can argue that in this series anyway. At this point, we're looking at a fairly stable gap, so doesn't look like Wopke is losing anything, so this could be very, very tense until either Jeffrey finds some kind of a lap where he can overtake. Not overtake, but he can run away. Or Wopke Hoekstra finds a lap where he can overtake. However, Stefan Ruold on a charge on Wopke Hoekstra, not quite able to do it with both of them having a DRS advantage. However, one single mistake from one of these drivers, and there's Borja Milan, and right behind there's Alex Siebel, who are all waiting for that opportunity. It looks like Ruold is very feisty indeed. Wopke Hoekstra not quiet, slow enough on a straight for Rule to catch up, but it is very close. It is nose to tail. It is absolutely nothing between them. So one mistake, lose the DRS, and I think that Rule will have Hoekstra. However, at this point, Hoekstra is doing a very good job to keep in behind Fournier, so that's something he'll be very happy with. It's just 0.4 of a second between them two. I think it's about 5 right now, 7. So this is actually one of the bigger gaps we've seen so far. And now, Wopke is not going to have as good of a traction and not as good of a draft as he would usually have. And now Stefan is only 3/10 behind. I think Stefan is going to hazard go for a move. I don't think he quite can with his top speed currently. I think he may have shortened his gears too much, or maybe they just can't go any longer. But I can tell you right now that Stefan just cannot out top speed Hoekstra if they're both on DRS, even if he is in draft. So here's again a case that I've made before. If you make the gears too short, it's going to bite you, even if, especially when you're trying to overtake. Bit of a battle between Shepard and Fuller again. Shepard just overtaking Fuller into 14th place. Thankfully, without any further touches or contact is probably the best way to put it between the two. Shepard already back into 14th place. However, his race is kind of ruined after the unfortunate incidents. Interesting enough, we're seeing the gaps being pretty similar right now. So Borja Milan is just as close to Stefan Rold as Stefan Rold is to Wopke Hoekstra, and Wopke Hoekstra is just pretty much always the same gap behind Jeffrey, about half a second, 0.6 of a second. So, let's see all other drivers and the gaps between them. Dennis Jordan, David Kacper are about 2 seconds apart. Matala is also about 1.5 seconds behind Kacper. That's something close. Shepard just overtook Van der Voort, I think, and Van der Voort is actually attempting a move back on Shepard, going on the second of the DRS zones, and is going to have him back. So this is a battle that's definitely happening, and definitely Shepard is going to try to overtake Van der Voort again. This looks like one of those moves where Van der Voort just not quiet, while not quicker, just able to keep on the DRS. And sometimes overtaking on the first DRS zone is not as good as overtaking the second one. So the gap seems to be a bit elongating up the front. However, I think what's more important right now, or not more important, but more interesting, is Van der Voort Shepard. And they're very close, coming out of final of the corners. It is not, I call it the final corner, while it is technically not. It's the final corner. You have the final breaking point, essentially. Chris Shepard going on the inside into the first corner, and he's already done before the Sendas has even started. I have a feeling like we may see a repeat of what we've seen last lap, unless Shepard does an absolutely amazing run out of these corners. I think Van der Voort has another run. Van der Voort, can he do it again? Can he do exactly what he has just done? It looks like he can. He's gonna go for the inside. He's gonna do it again. Exactly the same repeat move. Same old story. However, Shepard now shadowing Van der Voort, and Van der Voort is spun out. That is not how you overtake, Chris. That is not how you overtake. And that's one for the disciplinary committee, but I think that's pretty obvious on how not to race and how not to overtake. But one can only feel very sorry for Tom Van der Voort, since that ending of the race was not his fault whatsoever. The top 5 drivers are still very close together, and behind them is Dino Paolini, kind of very close. Zeeble trying to possibly move on Borham Land, but not quite able to get the top speed to do so. So, at this point, Wopke Hoekstra is really close. However, right behind him is Stefan Ruhl. So this could, it looks, last split, it was very close. However, at this point, it looks like Hoekstra just doesn't quite have the edge in the very tight S's. However, Ruhl seems to be very, very keen on being on the very back end of that Wopke. And yes, today it is the nickname for Chris Shepherd, maybe Torpedo indeed. It has not been a great race. Although to be fair, he has done some good stuff in the first race, and it wasn't really his fault for. It wasn't actually his fault for retiring that time. However, no overtaking up in the front, no real battling in that sense. However, there's battling for 11th place, Bastian Peisler. A person who has not had a great first race. However, here, he's now in 11th place, which is very impressive. And he's doing pretty well. He's now trying to fend off Maciej Młynek, who's on DRS and is going to make a move attempt and cannot quite do it. Peisler definitely closes the door very, very confidently. Młynek not trying to put his car in there, and that would have been a big, big mistake to do so. It would have been problematic for both drivers. However, this looks like a battle that could be very, very... I think we're going to see Młynek in front of Peisler right by the end of this lap. I'd say thereabouts start of the next lap. He is shadowing him again, like just absolutely. And now he has the draft. He's gonna start closing in, and soon enough he'll be able to open the DRS and help himself even more. He's going to the outside, and the DRS is active. Can he do it? Yes, yes he can. He's already in front on the braking zone. However, Peisler, incredible on the brakes, and Młynek spins after a slight contact with Peisler. So this is actually really impressive from Peisler, who ended up actually outbraking Młynek. That's very, very scary considering Młynek has been able to outbrake anybody last time around. So Młynek has lost quite a bit of space. And now, Ruhl attempts a move on Wopke Hoekstra and loses out in a different place than the DRS zone now, a couple of corners beforehand, in fact. Now it seems to be battling with Alex Zeeble, who's now seemingly going to have him. That is incredible. One small mistake, and Stefan Ruhl is going into the pits. It looks like he has damage, and he cannot continue with that damage, and he's retiring the car. Stefan Ruhl has retired his car from this race. What a sad ending to Stefan's race. Hopefully we're going to get some kind of information on why he had to retire from this race. However, sorry, Gerrit? Yeah, Gerrit does think that it's suspension damage, so I'd say it could have been, and just didn't decide to repair it, considering it would take a while. It could have been suspension damage, but still, you nearly tried to repair it. It's not like as if they had that much to lose, just keep on running. But however, that does mean that one of the drivers has had a bit of a better... Well, is having a bit of a break from having Stefan Ruhl behind him. And Wopke Hoekstra now has to deal with Borham Lan instead, which is another fast-charging driver. Third place last time around, and this time not quite able to close in. I don't think Wopke is going to be able to attempt a move on Jeffrey anytime throughout this race, but now what I'm seeing as well is he's losing time. It's only It's over half a second. That's one of the highest differences. Actually, no, never mind. It's back up with the second DRS zone with Hoekstra making mistakes. Okay, and thankfully he can recover from not that bad. However, Borja right on the back end of Hoekstra. Hoekstra seems to be under heavy pressure again from a different driver, but this time, who knows? Borja could be going for a move, could be going for an aggressive attack, and Jeffrey is also making mistakes now, so it looks like Hoekstra could be going for a move for the lead. Fournier making mistakes. Fournier going to be under heavy pressure. He is, for the first time since he overtook Hoekstra, under pressure enough that he could be facing a change in position after the next couple corners and the next couple DRS zones. Hoekstra on a run. Jeffrey goes defensive to the inside. Hoekstra goes out to the outside. Brakes late. Tries to outbrake Jeffrey. Gets a lot better line through the corners. Get a better exit. And now it is all down to this DRS zone. Can he close in? I think he's too far, but it is going to be close. I think they're going to be even in going in, but he is going to be on the outside. Not quite. He can't even out. Jeffrey having the worst line, so Hoekstra having a better exit, and now he can go for a all or nothing move. However, that will mean that Milan will go for another move on himself. Milan just sitting there like a predator, just waiting for his prey to kill something else, just to have an even bigger dinner, and hoping for that massive double overtake for the win. He is definitely waiting for that. Siebel right behind, and Paolini closed in now. Paolini joined into that train. It's still a five-man train, one less, but one more. With Jeffrey currently with a bit of a bigger gap, so that's good for Jeffrey. He's definitely going to be enjoying that bit of a leeway. However, he is however, now Borja attacking Hoekstra again. I don't think he can quite do it, but he will try to do it again into the second DRS zone. Hoekstra not quite. Hoekstra would have to make a mistake for it to happen, but it is still technically possible. Jeffrey safe throughout the second DRS zone. Borja goes for a bit of a dummy, trying to sell a dummy, didn't work. Hoekstra not quite scared enough, and just showing himself in the mirrors. However, Borja possibly going for an aggressive move. It nearly looked like it, but he did back off. Did think better of it than going into an insane corner like this. Let's see. Jeffrey Fournier still able to keep just a tiny slither of a gap from Wopke Hoekstra. I think he's safe for another lap to come. We still have another 5 laps after this one. So Hoekstra not quite able to do it. Borja Milan dropped back a bit himself. However, Siebel not quite able to maintain either. Let's see if there's anything that I'm missing in behind. At the moment, Maxim Winnick in 10th place. I don't think that's changing much. Pfizer in 11th. Chris Shepard in 12th has not really done much. Yes, so basically it seems like everything else around the circuit is pretty calm except the top 5 drivers, and possibly Dennis Jordan joining him in at the end of the race with the way that this is going. Wopke Hoekstra, again, 4/10 of a second after the last sector, is going to be attempting to go through these twists. It, again, seems like Wopke not quite able to keep to Fournier in this section. However, Milan is definitely able to keep up to Wopke from through here. And if not for Jeffrey, and if not for that DRS, I don't think Wopke would be having much hope of keeping Borham behind. Jeffrey Fournier actually makes a mistake coming onto the final straight. However, I don't think it's quite close enough, but Wopke is possibly going to try another move again like he had tried last time. Can he make it better through these Senasses this time? Can he keep that gap? Can he make that gap even smaller? And can he overtake Fournier? I don't think he can. However, Fournier is not having the best of times right now. He could have overdriven his tires. There are 4 laps to go, and this is nowhere near over. Borja Milan still keeping like a shadow to Wapke, waiting for that one mistake, just like Ruold did. However, I don't think Wapke is going to be making too many mistakes right now. He's been showing very consistent driving ever since being overtaken by Jeffrey Fournier. Alex Stiebel, I'm very surprised for him not being able to go up, but as I've said in qualifying, these times and these drivers are very, very close today, and this track really does bring out some absolutely immense racing because of how close the times can be, how short this track is, and how intense everything has to be here. It's not even that it is, it just has to be. And now Borja Milan getting really uncomfortably close to Wopke Hoekstra, who is getting fairly uncomfortably close to Jeffrey Fournier, but I don't think close enough. So it's been lap after lap of very similar moves. Jeffrey does go defensive, however it's way too far still, and Milan also not being able to close down due to the DRS. Jeffrey being shadowed, he's making mistakes, his rear end seems to be faltering, his rear tires seem to be going off. It seems like Hoekstra can keep behind, it seems like Hoekstra can still challenge for the lead. This is something that I did not expect out of Hoekstra, and I did not think that he will be challenging for the lead against the likes of Fournier and the likes of Paolini, Milan, and of course, also Ruold. However, Hoekstra on a perfect run. He could be going for a move, and this could be a winning move right here. He does have the run. He does have the overlap. He's already in front of Fournier. He is going to make it past before the braking zone. Can he stop it in time? Just about can. Can he keep it in front through the second DRS section? I think he can. Can Milan catch up to Fournier? Can Milan make Fournier's life miserable so that Hoekstra cannot be overtaken? Not quite, but Hoekstra has it safe. Hoekstra back into the lead. Our pole sitter, our reverse grid pole sitter, back into the lead with just 2 laps to go. This could be very close. This race is somewhat akin of what we've seen back in Japan in the second race as well. This is some fantastic stuff. And yes, Adam Taylor, yes, it is IPC open mirrors, except with maybe a little less contact, although we've seen some earlier on. Some great stuff. So Wopke Hoekstra going in for the second to last time across the start-finish straight, and across the start-finish line. Just one more lap of defense against Jeffrey Fournier. Alex Stiebel not even on podium. This is an unusual finishing position for Alex Stiebel. Last time we have seen him not win a race was of course at Austin, the second race there. It just seems like here it is not a possibility for him to overtake when he's in a train. Currently, Hoekstra, Fournier, Milan, Fournier not able to overtake. No, not quite able to close down on Hoekstra. It is going to be down. This is the final lap, remember. Fournier going for the move on the inside. Now the next corner is going to be outside. Which one of them is going to be giving it up? And Fournier goes with an absolutely kamikaze move. What an incredible move from Fournier. Just a small mistake of Hoekstra, and he just about was able to utilize it, and he did utilize it. Fournier on a final lap, not even in a place where we expected him to do it, goes into the lead and is about to go into the final straight, and is going to take the win for the second race of this day, of this Grand Prix double round. This is some amazing stuff. And Fournier is about to cross the line, and here we go. Fournier, just purely by the skill of his teeth, 0.1 of a second behind, in front of Wopke Hoekstra. Borja Milan in third place, Alex Siebel in fourth, fifth for Dino Paolini, sixth for Dennis Jordan, seventh for David Kacper, who definitely will be quite happy with that considering he was starting in the bottom, middle of the second 10. Edward Batal in 8th place, 9th for Jason Muscat, 10th for Maciej Winnick, Bastian Paisler seems to be coming in 11th, so he does. Chris Shepard with 12th, 13th for Johan Lindberg as it looks. It will look like Mark Fuller will be in 14th, and Antonio Krajanovic will be in 15th. Of the drivers outside of scoring the points, we have Michael Bernard in 16th place, 17th for Stefan Ruolt, 18th for Tom van der Voort, 19th for Tobias Polacek, and 20th for Rob Mason. However, 17th down are DNFs, and they will not be classified. I'm kind of hoping that penalties won't happen there. So, great racing. At this point, I think we'll be seeing Jeffrey doing a fantastic job. Jeffrey definitely getting back up into third place on the general standings. So good stuff from Jeffrey. Wopke Hoekstra doing great. I think he will advance to 4th place, and now Dennis Jordan will drop to 5th place, not having greatest races. So that's something that's very unlucky. But 2 epic races, and I think Gerrit will agree with it outright. And I get a little bit of a message from Stefan Roll that I'm able to check now. I had suspension damage. I did not want to risk taking anyone out because of a bad handling car, says Stefan. So it was more of trying to make sure that everyone gets there safe. And please join us for interviews. I will be taking interviews in a couple of minutes. If I don't see anybody, we will be ending up the stream fairly quickly. So please hurry up if any of you drivers wish to come here, especially winners of the races, podium sitters, etc., etc. So, Gerrit, I'll ask you right now, which one of the 2 races did you prefer, first or the second? Because it's a bit hard to choose between them, in my opinion. I think the second race was very intense. It was fight for the win all the way across. I think the first race had the issues of it slowed down in the latter parts of the race when everyone spread out. However, that battle between Ruolt and Jeffrey Fournier and Ziebel was absolutely amazing. And apparently, it was just finished with purely 4% of the tire on Jeffrey's set by the end. So that's something incredible. And I don't think we're going to get much in terms of interviews, to be honest. Well, I think that's going to be a wrap then, because I don't think I'm going to be... my voice is not going to be taking it much more, I'll be perfectly honest, and I am very tired. So I should be thanking everybody for watching. I think we've had something like 16 people watching at some point, which is quite a lot from what I recall. So thank you, everyone. And thank you all for the drivers. Congratulations to the winners and podium sitters and pretty much all the finishers. Good stuff. there's going to be a bit of work from the disciplinary committee. However, I wish to I wish to wish all of you a good night or a good day wherever you are. I was Kacper and Gerrit de Vries with me. I'd like to just suggest that you join in for tomorrow's show at the same time for the Super League if you're interested. And finally, if you wish to watch a more in-depth analysis, I would invite you to SimNews.TV for our Supercup show, and also for a Super League show if you wish to do that. Although we apparently have an interview. Okay, so let's at least get Wopke in here. Hello, Wopke. Let's at least get you as an interview.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello. That was an intense second race.
Yeah, that was amazing. Well, kind of amazing. Because well, it was very close, and yeah, of course, with the DRS, we were all stuck behind each other, so it was quite hard. But you couldn't make a single mistake, because if you made a small mistake, you would definitely get past. So I had to drive cleanly all race, make sure that no one could get past. And I think on pure pace, I shouldn't have been in P2, because those guys behind me were, I think, quite a bit quicker. I didn't practice so much, so yeah, happy to get P2.
I'll be honest, you seemed just as quick as Jeffrey Fournier has.
Yeah, well, I guess I was mainly able to keep up due to the DRS, so it looked like I was keeping up with them, but to be fair, I really wasn't. I was just really on the limit already, and I was losing track during the middle sector.
Okay. So that looked to me as though to be honest, it looked like one of the most intense races. It reminded me of the race that we've seen in Japan earlier on this season as well. So yeah, congrats. And anything to say about the first race as well?
Yeah, well, I qualified P8, so from there it's quite hard to get to the front quickly. I got into P6, and I was in the DRS train again with some guys, but unfortunately there was one back marker, and he cost me some time, so I lost the DRS, and from then I had a quite lonely race. Yeah, so P6, but it helped me in the end with the reverse grid. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently I've seen a couple of comments being passed around that apparently you had that some people were surprised that it wasn't a five-place reverse grid, considering you seem to always miss out.
That's quite true. Yeah, during the season, Dino and I both missed out quite a lot. My teammates, of course. And so yeah, it's kind of become a joke, I guess.
Yeah, so that was a bit of fun. So yeah, no, congrats again. The second place is still very good, and even sixth place in first race is very, very good. So congrats again, and thank you. And I think that basically wraps. Considering I have wrapped this up already, as I thought nobody was going to be joining. I don't think I'm going to have to repeat myself too much. However, again, big thanks to Gerrit de Vries for the cameras. And I was Kacper and I invite you to tomorrow's broadcast at the same time for Super League. And hopefully it's going to be just as exciting. And I wish you all a good night and see you next time.